impressive. This is really going to move the needle.
Test, test. You can give it about 20 seconds and see if you can hear it.
It's not because you're not always. You just have to disclose it.
Good.
You have to disclose
Mayor,
it.
you should be good to go.
All right, welcome to the March 4th, 2026 North Logan City Council meeting. We will excuse Kenny tonight, who's out of town with work. We will start with a pledge led by Buzzy, after which Mark will say our opening prayer.
Will the audience please rise and repeat after me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we're thankful for the circumstances we have to gather, for the moisture and for the protection of this valley. We're thankful for our friendship and for the opportunity we have to work and serve together. We're thankful for those that watch over us and ask thy blessing and protection upon them, both local and for our nation. And we say these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Emily, second by Buzzy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will start with the recognition for the Green Canyon High School girls basketball team. Thank you guys so much for coming. I know that I speak for the council when I say we are so proud of you guys. So I love that. It's amazing. Everyone gets sick of hearing me talk, so I'm going to have Emily read the proclamation tonight.
Perfect. Whereas the North Logan City Council takes great pride in celebrating the achievements of our local youth and fostering a spirit of community, and whereas the Green Canyon High School girls basketball team has demonstrated exceptional skill, dedication, and sportsmanship throughout the season, and whereas through their hard work, teamwork, and determination, the team has achieved the remarkable honor of winning the 4A state championship, and whereas this victory reflects not only the talent of the players, but also the commitment of their coaches, families, and the entire Green Canyon High School community. And whereas the success of the girls' basketball team serves as an inspiration to all students in our community, encouraging them to pursue excellence in their own endeavors. Now, therefore, I, Lindsay Peterson, Emily Schmidt and City Council, on behalf of the City of North Logan, do hereby proclaim our heartfelt congratulations to the Green Canyon High School girls basketball team for their outstanding achievement in winning the state championship. We commend their persistence and commitment and encourage them to continue striving for greatness in all their future pursuits.
All right, now and then if you guys would, let's do a picture up front.
Green Canyon's got to stop being so successful at everything.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
I know. No.
All right, ladies, we'll excuse you. Thanks again for coming in. Okay. Let's move on to our recognition of an exemplary staff member. Tonight, that is Debbie Bond. She was nominated by Karen Jukes, who says, mostly just because Debbie deserves it. She always thinks of ways to include people in activities, especially the office staff. She's honest, hardworking, easy to talk to, and appreciates everyone who's doing their part to make the city run smoothly. I will add with Debbie that she is the envy of the valley. As far as I know, that everyone wants to steal Debbie, where how she administers our garbage system in our city, and that may seem weird to say, but she's truly impressive and makes our city run better in all ways. So let's give Debbie a hand of applause. Okay, and we have our department nomination. Today, that's the library. The library has been in the middle of a construction zone for a long time. During the building of the community center and now the library renovation, the library staff have shown remarkable dedication and adaptability, carefully relocating shelving, furniture, portions of the collection, and thoughtfully organizing what could be moved into the temporary space at the community center. While the entire collection isn't accessible for browsing, they have adapted seamlessly by retrieving materials for patrons and adjusting their daily routines to keep services running smoothly. Through it all, they continue to serve the community with patience, positivity, and a welcoming smile. I've been so impressed with the staff and particularly the library director, Trent Bateman, who comes to meetings every single Thursday and just looks for ways to make this as seamless as possible. So join me in giving the library a hand of applause. Okay, let's move on to reports from our public safety officials. We'll start with Chief Thompson.
Hello, I'll be fast. We have a big agenda tonight. Uh, as I announced last month, with their new data, we're still refining how to extract the data out of the new national reporting system. I think we're getting much closer. And really your calls for compared to last year, very similar with just 2 months in. I think to point out, we'll still be breaking down the EMS calls for you. So if there's any questions on that, let me know. Uh, but also last month, I want to let you know we did have a kitchen fire last month with minimal damage, so it was good. It didn't spread very far, but that was that one. And then we're continuing to work on the contract with the mayor. So, any questions for me tonight?
Okay, thanks so much, Chief.
Okay.
All right, Chief Goodrich.
I also will try to be fast for you tonight. A couple of big things this month. I wanted to kind of do a recap for February for North Logan and the amount of calls that we've had. We've given 2 active shooter presentations on that, and we've hired 2 new officers. They will be sworn in tomorrow night at the Police Commission meeting. Kind of wanted to give them an opportunity to meet the commission on that. So for the first time in a long time, we're fully staffed on that, which is a huge achievement for us, and we're excited about that. Um, our department is also being asked to give more and more presentations. We had Cache Valley Hospital that called today and wants a presentation and a walkthrough with their stuff on that. So, and then we have things coming up in April with the mayors where they're wanting a couple other mayors in Paradise and Clarkson that are wanting presentations on that. So we're seeing good things with that. As far as stats for February, on that, we as a department handled 401 calls. Out of that, 321 were for North Logan and 80 were for Hyde Park. Out of the calls for North Logan, those 321, on that, if you look to the right side, that green column, those are our priority calls on that. It averaged out to be 54%. So this is the highest number that I've seen as far as priority versus non-priority type calls. The priority calls being the calls that you have to have an immediate response to. To highlight some of those, if you look at our accidents, 24 accidents total between your hit and run, your property damage, and your injury crashes. 16 of the child abuse or child neglect investigations that we handled, 2 domestics, 2 DUIs. We had 1 fire structure that we helped with. The 6 keep the peace, and 42 medical emergencies that our guys responded to. Again, that averaged out to be 54%, which is a high number for that. Overall, we're 12 calls shy of where we were this time last year. So the first couple of weeks we saw that increase, and then our last 2 weeks we kind of plateaued off and we're down just shy of 12, but we're pretty similar as far as where we were last year with calls of service and things that are going on. So we're expecting more traffic with our guys that are out. They should be out doing more things lately. So 370 stops this month in traffic, and then one right along with Councilmember Schmidt. So
Just curious, when on here, by far the highest like number, the category is medical emergency. How does that work between you and the fire department, like EMS?
on that. So we assist with any life-saving measures if we get there first or not. And then afterwards, the report falls on us as far as are there any suspicious circumstances. The documentation side of it really is what we end up with to see if there's
So you're
anything
called to all of those calls,
we do.
like alongside the fire? Okay.
Well, most of the calls, some of the calls in the assisted living center, if it's a fall and they have medical on scene, we won't respond unless they need us. But for 95% of them, we're going to the calls
Awesome.
with that.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions for Chief?
okay.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, Alan, strategic directives and action items.
Thanks, Mayor. And also thanks to Chief Goodrich. He came this last week and provided a training in the basement here for our CERT program. It went over very well. We had over 50 people in attendance, so thanks, Chief, for doing that. That's fantastic. Obviously, you're in high demand with all of your trainings. So jumping through these items, we'll go through the community center at the end of the meeting, along with the taxation issues, that next item down. Master signage will probably start on the process the next few weeks. And jumping down through, I'm not going to go over water and sewer at length. I'll leave that to Zach if that's okay. And then also streets and stormwater. It's lining up really well. Engineering, you'll probably see a few of the agreements we have for right-of-way along 200 East, probably in the next 1 to 2 meetings. They have them nearly finalized with 2 or 3 of the property owners, which is fantastic, wrapping those up along that length. And this is 200 East, kind of there from 14th North to 18th North is what we're talking about, our COG projects. BST alignment, we'll go over that a little bit more, but we do have our grant, and we're working through that with the 3 other cities, or 2 other cities in county, to get that up and running this year. We'll put in segments this year, and hopefully by next year they can wrap up a lot of that trail that will go all the way between us to Smithfield at that point. And along the Twin Ditch, Jordan's wrapping that up, that grant that we have to put in that segment from here to 2200 North. Parks, they're working on the north end of the park. You've seen that progress. They're applying for the remaining portion of that RAPS grant. Hopefully they achieve that or they receive that so that they can put in the remaining landscaping around that. Jumping down through, we've already gone over trails. I won't go over that at length. Although we did meet today, luckily 1600 East and 1900 North are added to the Utah Trails Network. It is a very difficult list of trails or prospective trails, potential trails to be added to, and we were the only ones in Cache Valley this past year. So both 1600 East and 1900 North have been added to that. 1600 East has actually achieved another category. Scott Perks has been working with the county, with Landis and Emily from the county, and they set up a meeting with UDOT to go over that potential to receive a grant for design and right-of-way acquisition to work on those trails, mainly for 16th East at this time. That is the highest priority trail because it has so much active transportation on it currently. And it is a safety concern along that road. So they'll start looking into that right now, and whether or not we apply for the grant this current year, which would be fantastic to get that off and rolling. Another road that is added to that recently is 200 East. But we are working through that with the COG right now, and then we'll see how we can tie that in. It's all the way through North Logan, except for just that south portion where we're working with the COG, but it would need to be expanded through Logan at that point, and we'll see what we can do to help move that along. Rec, they have several different camps that are open right now. I think they had 12 or 13 camps, and then they have a number of other programs that they're putting together right now. It's just a very busy season leading up to the year or the summer. Jumping down through cemetery shed construction, we'll have the finalized design soon, and so they'll continue moving forward with that shed. community development. Scott will go over a few updates at the end of the meeting. His planning commission meeting this week will discuss that Main Street commercial gateway that's from 2500 North to 3100 North along Main Street, and then also the 2500 North gateway overlay zone, or the zoning, or what mechanism they're going to look into to help with that. Jumping down through, we are working with a few businesses right now. Thanks to Scott for putting together the budgets for this, for each of the department heads that we'll go over today. Human resources, I did want to bring up. Karen's put together this Employee Appreciation Month. She started this 7 years ago. Hats up to her. But that's why you see a few gifts or treats and puzzles that she puts together. And she does this each week of the month. It's just fantastic, kind of showing appreciation for each of the employees. So thanks to Karen for putting that together. Jumping down through library, they had their Jane Austen event. They had the highest attendance that they've had. They had to cap the attendance. It went really well. That was down at the Riverwood Center. In the future, they'll host that at our community center. But it was really well attended, really well done. And then they're still just basically moving ahead, trying to operate in kind of that limited capacity right now. Thanks to police and fire for providing those updates. I skipped through a lot of things pretty quickly. Are there any further updates or further questions?
Yeah, any questions on that? Okay, thanks, Alan. All right, we have our meeting minutes as part of our consent agenda. And unless there's any changes on that, I would entertain a motion to approve that consent item. Motion by Buzzy,
Second.
second by Emily. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. All right, let's move into our action items. The first is consider a resolution of the North Logan City Council in support of a community project funding request to Congressman Blake Moore and certifying the city's ability to cover applicable matching funds. The resolution also includes a corresponding letter of support. I'll kind of just pass along. This is a new requirement from Representative Moore's office, because I think in the past they've had changes of city councils mid appropriation year, and they just want to make sure that there's written continuity that we will come up with the match for this funding. So anything to add, Alan?
No.
All right, any questions on this? Okay.
The only thing is there's a resolution and then a support letter, so they're part of the same approval if you are going to
Okay.
move it.
So we would be motioning to adopt the resolution and authorize my signing of the support letter?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion on that. Okay,
I move that we adopt the resolution that supports a community project funding request to Congressman Blake Moore and approve the mayor to sign the letter of support.
okay. Motion by Emily. Second by Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Our next item is consider granting the mayor authority to negotiate and sign a property easement agreement related to potential easements for transmission water line and the Bonneville Shoreline Trail through parcels 04-050-0097 and 18-006-0004. You want to go through this, Alan?
Yeah, and if I need some help, I think there's several people here that can help me go through this. What this is just it's a potential agreement, kind of outside of development. But what we're trying to do is obtain two easements, an easement for a water line. And sorry, this diagram that you're looking at, north is on the left side. So just not to overly confuse you. If you go way down in the bottom right-hand corner, Buzzy's house is down there, just to help bring you up to date. Anywho, so this kind of puts it in perspective. None of these lots right here exist as of today. This is a vacant parcel. But what it shows is what the future development, this does not approve a development, but what it shows is where the water line would go underneath the road, and then it would go up along this fashion, then underneath the Bonneville Shoreline Trail to meet our upper Beef Hollow Reservoir. And so what this agreement does is it tries to memorialize an easement at this time where the city would come in through a grant and install that before the subdivision goes in. So we would install the water line, and the property owner would grant us that easement in advance of any subdivision going in. And then along with that, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, it's a little bit further east than is depicted here, but that would be the other easement that's granted by the owner in hopes that the developer wouldn't have to install that in the future. We would install that through the grant. But the developer and the owner would have to grant us an easement for both of these items. And that's what this agreement attempts to memorialize, is that we're installing the water line, we're installing the trail through these grants, but they're granting those easements in hopes of the future coming through and being able to develop that property. But it does help them, the water line and the trail, in the future by having those installed by the city. So it's kind of a mutually beneficial if we can work through this. Timing's not the same for both of us, and so that's hence the agreement right here.
Okay, questions on these?
Appreciate the work. Good luck.
Okay.
I think that was a motion.
Good luck, that implies it. No, I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll move, we grant the mayor authority to negotiate and sign a property easement agreement as described in item 3 of the current action item list. in the
Okay,
agenda.
motion by Mark,
I'll second it.
second by Larry. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. All right, let's move into our work session. Nick, thanks for being here, by the way. We will get updates regarding discussions with the Utah Tax Commission.
I can go over this thanks to Scott as well. Scott, Vicky, they've been instrumental in reaching out to the tax commission and just looking for correspondence and updates on several things that we're talking about. Obviously, this ties back into our discussion and things that we discovered originally related to our city name and some issues that arose through having a similar name to the adjacent community and what that the tax implications associated with that. We're learning more and more as we go through this process. So thanks to Scott again for setting this up. We had a meeting with the tax commission. These are some of the key early takeaways. And I just wanted to update the city council on this, and we'll go through it. And at the end, there's a list of to-do items. But these are some of the concerns right now. This one's related, this slide is related to licensing and sales tax registrations. When a business comes into either city, what do? And one of the problems right now is there are a lot of businesses that are unknowingly registering their business in Logan City, adjacent to us, because there's a lot of overlap as you go through Main Street. There's businesses there. They may not know that they're registering with Logan City. That is an issue, and that is a concern, and it does happen. Each year it does happen. The only current way to remedy this, though, this is what we learned from the tax commission. This is the hard part. This is extremely difficult. Is the owner of the business has to go online. They used to have to fax. Luckily, they have an online portal now. They have to go online and they have to request from the tax commission, and they have to get their business license switched to North Logan. We can put in requests, we can talk with the business owner, both cities can talk with them, but it's ultimately the business itself that has to go online and move that business into the appropriate city. And so that's the tough part, learning that and knowing that there's only that one process. Now, they did give us a new tool. It's called the SORT tool. That's obviously an acronym, but we can look through businesses and find out exactly which businesses are paying in what city. This is going to be a game changer for us to be able to go through and look and see exactly where they're paying their sales tax.
Alan, does this ever happen the other direction, like where there are Logan City businesses that register with us?
Yes, it's a fraction, a very small percentage, but when that happens, Vicky's usually on the ball, and she will just let Logan City know and that business know, and they usually change it pretty quickly. It's kind of the more difficult aspect on the reverse end. To get them all to change, because there's multiple that are reversed, where they do register in Logan unknowingly, and we have to get them to switch to North Logan. Okay, this is transient room and short-term rental taxes. This is another question that came up, and so we went over these in detail. This is the one that's really tough because of the way the tax laws are set up. I'm just going to put a hint in there, potentially because there's probably legislators who own Airbnbs. But this is the one that's a little frustrating, to say the least. Let's just say someone or a property management firm who lives in Salt Lake City owns 20 Airbnbs in North Logan City. The sales tax currently goes to Salt Lake City. It's the location of wherever that person or business is that owns those Airbnbs. That's tough to hear. That's really difficult. So we asked, how do we correct that? What can we do? The problem is right now that is very difficult to go in and correct because VRBO and Airbnb and the other short-term rentals, they don't have an incentive to ever change that. And so it's literally out of the kindness of their heart if we can reach out to the owner of those businesses and say, would you ever be willing to switch that over to North Logan City, which they can go in there. So that's basically us begging those individuals to change their location because they can change it to the city. They can change it to North Logan, but that individual has to do that.
Actually, a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to tie that to either a conditional use permit and or a business license?
We could do that. And Scott might be able to bring us up to date because he's well versed in short-term rentals and what our current policy is for short-term rentals. We've had to change it 2 or 3 times in the
Yeah,
past few
I
years.
remember.
The current ordinance doesn't necessarily speak to where a property owner resides if they're going to short-term rent. They do have to get a conditional use permit in order to short-term rent, but there's nothing in our ordinance that specifies they must be a
I
resident.
get that. I'm just wondering if that's an ordinance change that would address going
Could.
forward.
Yeah, we have to look into legal implications if that's something we can impose as far as a requirement, but we could look into it.
I think we need to fully explore that because whether it's something that we can encourage or whether we can mandate, we need to look into it either way because this goes back to if we give a business even a slight incentive or something else, the businesses that sign up for those incentives, we mandate that they use North Logan on every ounce of documentation they have, advertising, anything they send out on social media, it has to say North Logan on it. And most people are they're fine with that. But this might be something along those same lines where we just say, would you be willing if you're coming in here and signing up for conditional use to literally locate
It seemed
your
like it's
taxes?
reasonably related to the services we provide because the
Yeah.
facilities here, we provide police and fire and roads and everything else. And so it seems like a type of exaction that you could include in our ordinances.
I think we need to fully, I'll add that to the list at the end of the to-dos. I think that's something we really need to explore. A good catch on that one. The other issue that we can't really correct is that a lot of the portals will default to Logan City. What tax implications that has, are, they don't know the exact implications because it could default to Logan at that point, all of their taxes, but we need to look into that as well. That's something really tough to correct. I don't know if we'll be able to correct it on our end. Online sales. This is also very difficult to understand. And this goes back to, I think there's some legislators who owns a few businesses. This is really difficult. It's not logical. It's not common sense the way this happens. If someone orders a product within the state of Utah, then the originating city receives the online sales tax. So let's say someone owns a business in Salt Lake and they distribute out of that business and the end user is myself. I order something in North Logan, they receive the sales tax in Salt Lake City. However, if someone is from outside the state of Utah and within the U.S., then the receiving address receives the city receives the sales tax. So if I order, I don't know, a couch out of Texas and it arrives at my house, North Logan City would receive the sales tax on that. I have no idea how that makes sense, but that's how it functions. The biggest issue related to this particular component, so all Amazon, eBay, all these other sales, is both the things that we've described, but then it applies to zip code. And then we'll go over that in this next slide. This is all based off of the 4-digit code, 84341, or the 9-digit code, which we're requesting right now from the post office to see exactly where those boundaries are for the 9-digit code. They're supposed to allocate the sales tax for a lot of those sales based off that 9-digit code. However, there are some steps or an algorithm that the online computer goes through in determining where the sales tax goes. Now keep this in mind. If there's a overlapping 9-digit code, so let's say it's a chunk along Main Street and it includes both North Logan and Logan, in that area, hypothetically, we're just going to say. Um, so the first step in that algorithm, it looks at and it says, who has the lower sales tax rate? It goes to that city. Well, us and Logan and most cities both have an identical rate of 7.3%. So I said, what is the next step then that it goes through? This is where it doesn't make sense. It was going to the lower city on the lower rate. The next step is they see which city is larger, and then it goes to that city.
That makes absolutely no sense.
No sense whatsoever.
Why don't we lower our rate?
So Mark's jumping the gun on that.
Mark, stop trying to
okay,
brown
sorry.
nose.
Yeah, that's easy.
So we'll get to what Mark pointed out. So we'll get to that in 1 second because Mark brought up a point that we brought up. So the other misconception that we've always gone and operated under slightly, it's not a full misconception, but that the city receives 50% of the point of sale sales tax and the rest is distributed to the cities and the state based off of population. That's basically what we've been told for 100 years. In reality, this is what happens. And Scott discovered this recently. If a business pays $1 million to the state in sales tax, all sales tax goes straight to the state and then it's redistributed. So it goes to them. But let's say a business hypothetically paid $1 million to the state in North Logan and it went to the state in sales tax. North Logan City would receive approximately $52,000 of that $1 million for the point of sale. Now, keep that in mind. That's a big hit. Assuming that we received $500,000, that is not the case. Another $52,000 would be distributed to cities across the state based off of population. The rest, the $900,000, the state would just keep for themselves, and they would categorize it as state sales tax for these types of funds. They literally just set up like 20 different little categories, and it just goes to the state. So most of your sales tax just goes straight to the state and stays with the state. We were not aware of that.
So do we get 5% of the sales tax?
Yeah.
Is that right?
So yes, Fuzzy point that out. That's
Yeah,
tough
it's a
to
little bit
hear.
more.
We knew that they did keep a portion of it. We just didn't realize it was
5%.
90%.
I mean,
of
this
it.
is absurd.
Yes.
Yeah. So you might want to wonder why they would ever struggle with budget, hearing that they keep 90% of everything the city's bringing in with these businesses, working with these businesses. However, that's a side note. This is something we've discovered, which is hard to hear. Okay, to-do list to correct a lot of these things. Number 1, petition Blake Moore's office. We need to adjust that zip code. It needs to have a definitive boundary between us and Logan, and us and Hyde Park, to say this is exactly where the boundaries of our city are located. Our boundaries are not going to change in the future. They are locked in, and so we need to change that. Scott's working on this as well. We're requesting the 9-digit zip code map from the Post Service. Again, these are both hard to obtain and work with the post office. That's why we're reaching out to Blake Moore's office. Okay, the next one is the acronym there. This is the State Commission site, which is great. They put this together, and we can look up every physical business and where they're paying their sales tax. These are physical businesses, though. Keep that in mind. That's the only one we can look up. The other one is reach out to business owners who have registered in Logan City after we've looked at that sort website and found businesses. Reach out to Logan City and the State Tax Commission and that owner. That owner has to go through that process to change that address. So we'll work on that as well. Reach out to Logan City, see if they can help with new businesses. If they're coming in, Logan just has to look at their site and make sure that they are in Logan City. That's one thing that can help. And I think they would. They've worked with us in the past. The next one is Mark's question. Do we change the sales tax rate to 7.299?
Mark, that's your legacy.
Percent.
The Mark Hansi Tax Reduction
Tax
Act.
Reduction Act.
What
2026.
we'd have to look into is see if that's going to be, if we lose across all the city, how much we would lose, and analyze that versus what we're losing in just the name and zip code issues, and see which one actually is higher. But that's worth looking into. If that's the algorithm the state set up, and I don't think they're going to change it anytime soon,
What if they have any rounding formula, though?
it's worth looking into. Like Buzzy said, if we're going to go through this process. Okay, the other one, when I talked about that issue beforehand, when you order something online, we need to look through and make sure our exporting businesses have their business license and sales tax registered in North Logan City. Meaning if they're exporting all over Utah, um, that sales tax should be coming back to North Logan City. Um, and so we really need to make sure, and Vicky's going through and making sure that's the case through SORT. We do have that tool now, and that is a very new tool. And then just reaching out to short-term rental owners and begging them, see if they'll switch. These are some preliminary steps in going through this, just related to this, what the State Tax Commission has done to update us and help us understand these items. And these are things that we can do that are kind of, I wouldn't call them low-hanging fruit, but just the immediate things we can do to help correct some of that taxation issue.
Do we have any, oh, go ahead, Mark.
Good.
Oh, I was just curious if we have a sense of what numbers are associated with these kind of tax losses.
Well, when we originally went through, Vicky had already been up, and it was in the range of $40,000 to $80,000 that we were already losing. So I think it's just there could be substantially more. But those are the ones based off of the short-term rentals, the online sales, what's coming in. And so those are the things that we really need to correct. The key to all of those is literally just that. It sounds very simple, and I think it's very hard to do. But adjusting that zip code boundary is almost the most important. We'll still continue to lose out of Airbnb and those other taxes, but we need to make sure that our sales tax boundary is very set, and so that we're receiving those.
Okay. Mark, sorry.
I just wondered if we could, as an incentive, either waive the license fee or make it a multi-year type of permit in exchange for making the designation.
We should look in that. What we had beforehand, we did notice this, that our fee was significantly lower than the surrounding cities, but businesses still complain regardless.
Yeah.
And I don't think they know what other cities are charging when we're charging it. So like you said,
You just collect bucks, avoid, waive the fee if you
Switch it over.
switch it over.
yeah. I think we need to look into that. I'll write that down. That's a good thought. Any incentive we can put on the table, because there's no other incentive
We've
for them.
nothing.
They
We've
pay it
nothing.
regardless. So they're paying it. What can we offer to incentivize them to switch over other than please be nice? I mean, that's what we're asking right now.
All right. Any other questions on this? I'm just curious. Like this seems like a kind of separate discussion from the city name. Is that fair to say?
City name, the only two that would have an effect right now that we just went over. Some online sales do get allocated to the wrong city, and then the VRBO are the ones that are going to the wrong city. The registration is more just an issue of them going to the wrong city because they don't know whether they're Logan or North Logan, but that could happen regardless of whether the city names were close.
Mm-hmm.
But the city name is more, there's a percentage of those things that we're losing just because of online and the VRBO Airbnb. Those are the two that we're losing. But I'd say the sales tax itself is more just, can we get people to register in our city? Two things that Mark has talked about, like, can we get them to do that? That's not really related to the name per se.
Okay.
But with respect to the name, a lot of the concern about the name change is the need for people to update everything. And if we're going to go through the process of updating a zip code and making people get a new zip code, they're changing their address. And you may time it
You might as
with
well.
a name and a zip code change.
I think ours would be fantastic though, because ours would stay 84341. That's the North
Yeah, I think
Logan.
we'd kick out part of
We
Logan.
can avoid that issue.
Mhm.
Okay.
You just let them deal with that. They can fend for themselves. Sorry. It's everything south of our border to 10th North in Logan. That's a pretty big gap. That's 2/3 of a mile of businesses from 14th North to 10th North or 15th North to 10th North that would have to change and modify their zip code. Great thoughts though. Thanks. This is the feedback we needed.
Well, thanks for the hard work on that. I know that even the tax commission, I think they had to dig in to really kind of figure out the answers to some of our questions. So I appreciate the work the staff's done on this. Anything else on this before we move on?
No,
All
this
right.
is great information to have.
Then we will start with the budget proposal for the water department. And we have the famous Zach Root.
Okay, so we're gonna go through this fairly quickly. It hasn't changed too much from last year's budget due to the fact that this enterprise fund has to kind of base everything upon revenue, and I use the previous year's revenue numbers to project for this coming year. It's just the safe way to do it. So we're gonna start with a kind of a starting balance of 2.2 million. If Alan will scroll down, I'll go over a couple of the highlighted changes. Big one you'll see all of the supplies and fuel and training, that's all going to stay the same. But we're going to see a large increase in the infrastructure, so line 482. That is to take money from our kind of capital savings block, move it up into our expenses in preparation for 200 East Waterline. So that way we have some of that non-impact fee related money available and budgeted to get started on that. So that's why that jump is there. This current year, it's large because of our big infrastructure projects with the tank and the water treatment plant. So those will get resolved before the new budget year. If you scroll down a little bit further, water meter line, 482. Oh, scroll up a little, sorry, meter replacement, 485. That's got a jump in it as well. That's to get 900 meters coming that are cell service meters rather than radio drive-by read, which will allow homeowners to have an app on their phone to monitor their usage, set alarms, and kind of take the burden off of us for their leak detection program. So that's our initial cost. Going forward, this is going to be like a 5-year switch out, kind of the plan to do all 2,800 meters. But I was able to secure, it's 895 meters for this cost. So we got a deal. Some negotiations happened where we needed to upgrade anyway, and our meter supplier really helped us out. But this would be 50% of our residential connections could get swapped out in the next 16 months probably.
How does that affect homeowners? Like, what does that look like?
It won't. So there is it's 91 cents per month per meter cell service cost, but we're going to build that into impact fees to start. So we should be able to cover for $10, $120, we'll get 10 years out of it. And that's the life of a meter anyway. So developers might see a little bit of an increase, but it's not too much. So that's the plan right now. For how we're going to move forward in the summer with our metering. Yeah, so it has, it's got 2 cell cards in it, so the reliability is there. T-Mobile and Verizon are in the meters, so they don't go down.
Cool.
Other than that, if Fallon scrolls down, you'll see that that capital block is empty. But like I said, we just moved that up. So we balanced the budget by removing that section. Pretty close.
Okay. Any other questions for Zach? What's your Reese's peanut butter cup budget? Because I just saw a whole lot of them.
That comes out of Debbie's.
Okay.
Please tell me you're doing Reese's sticks instead of the peanut butter cups.
I don't know, it's whatever Debbie has in her office.
You can't get picky.
Reese's sticks. Everybody likes
Okay, we're going to have to talk about this off the record. Anything else for Zach? Okay.
Yo, Zach,
Okay.
Reese's stick.
Thank you.
Sewer, we follow kind of the same system. We take last year's revenue, put it into this coming year, so that way we can have a safe budget number. It's a little bit higher, 2.6 as our starting. We don't see any significant increases in any specific line, so we're going to try to operate how we've always operated, just at a straight budget. That payment to Logan, though, is what I'm going to focus the most on to lower. We're currently, within the next month, we'll see some manhole rehabilitation and some sewer line like sleeves going in, try to stop infiltration from going. But that's probably our biggest expense, and so I'm just going to focus to lower that.
Plug for Zach on this. When we talk about this, you see that that large amount that we pay. That's according to what we have to pay to Logan to treat the the sewage that we send from the entire city. This last year, out of all the cities, there's 7 cities that participate with Logan City and the other cities throughout the valley. Zach, by slip lining a lot of lines so groundwater can't get in, looking at manholes and sealing those so that groundwater is not coming in, any other ways that water can get into our system, he's actually reduced those to the point where we actually saw a reduction in the amount that we send to Logan City. No other city even saw close to a reduction, let alone a decrease from the previous year. And so hats off to Zach for doing that. That has a huge return on investment. I mean, that could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars reduced in what we pay to Logan City. So great return on investment for Zach putting forth that effort to take care of those manholes.
Any questions about sewer budget?
Nope, I don't think so.
Doesn't need to be exciting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, streets. Huh? Oh, maybe.
Yeah, make them see.
Okay, our streets budget's going to be pretty consistent with our past year. Revenues expected to stay fairly the same. The only difference we see there is with the encroachment permits. That's just because Google Fiber's done with their work, so we won't be seeing those types of revenues. Scrolling down through expenses, all of that should be pretty consistent through the board. Down on line 34, that's our surface treatments. That's going up a little bit. We're gonna have another aggressive year, get a lot of roads treated, do some chip sealing, some more of that friction seal that we've done the past few years. Other than that, everything should stay the same. We haven't spent much out of our snow removal budget the past couple years, but we need to keep that up there in the off chance that we have a winter. So everything else should be fairly similar.
It's too late now. We don't want it to come now.
Yeah. we're
Oh,
over it.
are we
I
turning
mean,
away water, Buzzy?
Hey, for
I
the
still
record,
do, but
last night it did.
I like water.
I know.
A little bit on the
What chip seal streets are we working on this year?
Davis
So
question.
we're planning on hitting 3,100 between 12th East and 16th East. That needs some attention. We're also going to hit 600 East, 2,600 North from Main Street up to 4th East.
That 3,100, that might be a good time to swap the stop signs.
My gosh.
On Allen Falls.
Maybe just don't drive on it, Buzzy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll work this out.
Do whatever you need.
Okay.
But as far as chipping, that's it.
Okay.
Not too bad, actually.
No. We're going to do some friction seal down in your neighborhood area, down by the high school.
Love it.
Just keep those roads sealed up. I think the chip seal that we did a few years ago really helped, so we want to keep that in good condition.
Can you explain to me the difference between your friction seal and your chip and seal?
Yeah.
Oh, it
Yeah.
looks like someone
Larry
needs to
is-
be a street
Larry,
worker for a
here we
day.
go. Get
You
him
need to
best-
make sure
Okay, let me.
we're going to be a street department. 'Cause
This is
then
a
you're gonna
loaded
know it.
question. Because the quality of the chip and seal that was placed in my neighborhood is of very poor quality. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that we've got the right specs for these chip and seals. Because any given day of the week, I can take a shovel full of gravel, the small gravel that was used, and put it in my garbage can. So
Just from the gutters.
from the chip and from the gutters and the movement there.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that the dollar value that we're getting as a city,
Yeah.
okay, I'm an architect, I understand specifications and making a good quality specification. So I want to make sure that we've got that quality that we're putting down and spending the taxpayers' money on, getting the best bang for our dollars.
Of course. Yep, I agree. So with our chip seal, it's 3/8 chip.
Round pea gravel or fractured?
Fractured.
Okay.
Needs to
This
be
was
fractured.
rounded pea gravel.
So we have switched chips so last year we used a different chip than we've used in the past because the type of chip we were seeing was becoming more round. It wasn't fractured. It wasn't what we needed. So we have switched that up to remedy that situation. So yeah, the difference with the friction seal, it's a smaller aggregate. It's not as As long as the wear surface is there from a previous chip,
Mhm.
we don't need to add more wear surface to it. But with that lighter aggregate, we're able to put down a thicker emulsion, which is gonna seal up all the cracks in the road.
It's all about the
Keep it
seal,
tight.
it's all about the sealant,
Yes, yep,
not the wear aggregate.
yep. As long as the wear surface is there, we don't need to add more to it. But we wanna get as much oil into the road as possible. So,
Okay.
If you play your cards right, you'll get to drive.
Yeah.
They have yet to let me
No,
do
that's
that.
not true. I am the only one that's eligible. And
They let
Mark's
Mark do
co-pilot.
it.
I did it, and
And
it
you.
Never there.
wasn't
so-
your
was
road,
there.
I promise
The
you
one
that.
year I went, the
Mine
gravel
was
never got to it.
perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Kobe.
Just seeing how good I was.
All right, let's talk about stormwater.
sorry about that.
It sounds like
All right. So like water and sewer, stormwater is enterprise. So we just carried over the expected revenues and worked with that. So not a lot changes year to year for stormwater. I just wanted to cover two quick things. Line 21 there, 310, professional and technology. We are in the middle of a stormwater master plan right now. Sunrise Engineering is doing that for us. And so with that, we'll be able to have better data as far as when subdivisions come in, what we need as far as future stormwater lines and where our flows are currently and how that will affect us, which will lead us to be able to have stormwater impact fees that will help cover the costs of maintaining and improving these lines. So that's carrying over to this next year, but that is also currently underway. And then line 25, 482, infrastructure. In the past, this has been for large projects of improvements that we have needed. We're in a spot right now where we don't have any major projects, so we will be keeping that roughly the same, but we'll be using that to just make minor repairs around the city. Anywhere where curbing is sunk, we can fix, or boxes that need a better grate to allow water to enter and whatnot with leaf grates. So we'll just be able to do small things around the city to improve and help water go where it's supposed to.
Okay, great. Questions? Can't we come up with something? Like, we made it hard for everyone else. No, thank you so much. Okay. Let's talk about water capital improvement projects. Jordan?
All right, I'll go over this since Zach didn't. He had the perfect opportunity to.
It's true. It would have been more efficient.
I would have. Just an update. So on the water tank, there was another wall pour on a week ago Monday. So that was the re-pour of wall number 1. So now there are 3 walls up that are poured and have passed, and they will be framing the 4th wall that should be poured here at the end of this month, and then they'll begin framing the roof. That will take about 3 months to get the roof framed, and then they'll begin to pour that. So that tank is going very well. The treatment plant tank that Zach mentioned, it is completed. They're just finishing up some electrical work, and they should have that operational here pretty soon. And that's where we're at on water.
Okay. Questions for Jordan?
I was just curious what kind of flow change did we see from this last storm out of Water Canyon?
Do you want to? Zach will tell you. He looks
Thank
at
you,
it every
Zach.
day. Yeah, so we were seeing, through the winter, we were seeing in Water Canyon about 200 to 300 gallons a minute on our spring flows. That's not an efficient flow right now either, because we do have some stuff turned out. It's not all coming to the plant where we measure it, but what is coming down, we saw a difference after this last storm. We moved up to 600-700 gallons a minute, so we did see quite the increase. If you go up Green Canyon Road right now, you'll notice that it's terrible with construction, but all that water running down the road is the indication of spring runoff. So spring season has started, whether we like it or not. So moving forward through this later spring, when the plant's up and running, we probably won't have the flows we anticipated, but hopefully we'll see a steady 700-800 gallons a minute hold for a couple months. And so that's kind of my projection for what I hope to see coming forward.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to updates on the Civic Center.
I'll keep this brief. It's just basically the updates right now. We're still working through donations, wrapping up the final donations. The main portion of the library right now, they said they're still on track to be done in June. And so they'll continue gutting out the library, working through that. It's a very difficult task. But then the new portion of the library, the community center, there's just a few things that they're updating, some touch-up paint, some touch-up trim, those types of things, and then they should be done with that portion, which should take place in about the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would imagine. So they're still operating in a quasi-capacity, but yeah, they should be up to date at that point.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see, reports from everyone else. Jordan, anything else? Scott?
Yeah, just a quick update. Planning Commission tomorrow, there will be a public hearing for the rezone that is proposed for what we're calling the Main Street Commercial Gateway. Essentially, that's between 2500 North and 3100 North, 2nd West, and about 1st East. There's certain parcels between Main Street and Wolfpack Way that are part of that rezone proposal and others that are not. There is a staff report in the Planning Commission folder if you guys would like to take a look at that. Likely this will come to the council in the second meeting of March for consideration. We have fielded a couple of phone calls from property owners and business owners in that corridor. Nothing too concerning. Really the crux of that rezone, if you're looking for talking points, is that we're trying to limit a few heavy intensity uses along the Main Street corridor, like used car sales, warehousing, those types of heavier uses that we want to preserve the Main Street frontage for. And then there's some architectural and material requirements for new development going forward. Existing businesses obviously will be grandfathered under the existing land uses, but this will be something that is intended for future development purposes. So that's the big item on the agenda tomorrow. There's also a work session. We're going to continue discussing 2500 North and some land use regulations there. But any questions about that Planning Commission meeting tomorrow?
Have you gotten any feedback from citizens about
Just the few
The
you
rezone.
mentioned, right?
Just a couple of business owners along that corridor. A couple of folks are curious about, if they were to sell to, another tenant, if that tenant is the same non-conforming tenant as maybe in the property today, would they be able to reoccupy that with an existing non-conforming use? The answer is yes, as long as it doesn't stay vacant for more than a year. But they can't occupy it with a conforming use and then go back to a non-conforming use. So there's a little bit of concern there, but I think for the most part, the feedback I've gotten is understanding that, hey, this is probably the right direction for us to move in. And I think that it will be very limited impact to existing businesses unless there's a desire to fully redevelop their properties.
Or to expand that.
Or expand significantly. Yep.
That feels really fair.
Has there been any discussions on incentivizing the existing ones to upgrade to the new materials?
Not yet. So we have talked about doing that along 2500 North.
Right.
And having like a facade improvement program. If you remember back to the budget discussion for community development, we're going to start that program here in the next year or so. Kind of do a trial and error with that to see if there's folks who are interested in having some support from the city on some self-initiated improvements to their facades. Maybe the city would partner with them and credit them back for some of those costs. And I'm sure that we could do a similar program for Main Street as well. We just need to identify some funding. Yep.
That's easy. We're going to get a lot of tax revenue here in just a little bit. We fix
Yeah,
out all of
maybe
our
we'll
sales
just
tax
earmark some
problems.
additional funds. Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Buzzy was distracting me. We were talking in class, but thanks for your hard work on that. I know it's been a huge lift. Scott Bennett. Do you need to bug anyone about ULCT? No. Okay, fine. All right, and then Alan.
Jumping through here, you got the invite for Craig Humphrey's retirement. That is on March 16th at 11 a.m. At the main station there in Logan. Employee appreciation lunch, make sure you put that on your calendars. That is March 18th, 2 weeks from now at noon. So make sure you're there at that appreciation lunch. if you could all put that on your calendar. Easter egg hunt, North Logan royalty pageant, soapbox derby. Which one?
Oh, like how long it lasts.
Oh, be there at 11. It ends at 11:01.
Oh, one.
I was gonna say, it generally is done by 11:10.
Let's come back better next year.
Oh, it's more like 11. It's 11:02 for like certain age groups, and the longest it'll last is like 11:06 for like the youngest
super
ages.
cute.
It's gone.
Yeah, they started doing like one for the older kids too. That is fun.
And we actually don't advertise this far and wide, so keep it to yourself and the other residents of North Logan because we're one of the only cities that does an Easter egg hunt. So that's why we kind of keep it local. More eggs per kid. Anyway, those are a lot of the major events coming up. Just keep the other items on your docket, like Memorial Day and Founder's Day cleanup, any of those items.
Okay. All right. My updates, just a few things. We hosted the Mayor's Association in North Logan this month, and it was really great. We were at Rescue One.
Rescue One Studio.
And then it's like Studio 33, right?
Screen 33.
Screen, thank you. I couldn't remember. But one thing that I don't think I knew fully is that he runs a nonprofit for firefighters. And so any events that are booked at Screen 33, he contributes a sizable portion to kind of like, I don't even know. Chief Thompson, are you aware of this? It's like almost like you can designate the funds to just help firefighters however you can. That's kind of my understanding. And so it was really great. It's just a really cool way to highlight it. Also, I didn't know, but he has kind of a firefighter museum in that building with a helmet from 9/11. And anyway, just a really cool thing. We just have really great things going on in our city. And then we're working on our RAPS applications this week. The Friends of the Library are going to apply for the landscaping out in front of the library. So we're really grateful about that. I think it'll be a really big deal in terms of outdoor programming. So really grateful to them and all the work that Ryan does in that application. And then there have been some tax bills that we've been keeping our eyes on. I've mostly been keeping you guys updated on that, but there was the bill that required you to list your political affiliation when you're running for municipal office, even though it's a nonpartisan role, that I believe got killed. And then the tax bills, we worked really closely with the LCT to make sure that those were palatable. Kind of a frustrating process because it's evident that there are just some things that the legislature doesn't totally understand about the truth in taxation process, but I think those are as good as we could hope for. And so that's generally my update. Any questions on that? If not, let's move into our closed session. I'd entertain a motion on that.
A motion to move to closed session.
After
Okay,
5
it's
minute
not that
recess.
simple, Buzzy. How long have you been
To
here?
discuss
Pending litigation.
pending litigation or the acquisition of real property.
Okay.
My apologies.
And then we'll do a roll call vote.
Second.
Oh, sorry, second by Mark.
Okay, boy.
It's been a minute and we're at the end.
It's gonna be
Okay,
real fun,
so
guys.
Larry, yay or nay? Okay, Mark, Emily,
Yay.
Buzzy.
Yay.
Okay, that motion passes. Thanks, everyone.